Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jim Coppinger with ZenTek Consultants, and today we're going to be taking a look at Civil 3D 2020, the new release, and taking a look at some of the new tools that they put in there. Just a little heads up for you all to see what's going on. So as we go through the presentation today, you guys feel free, if you look at your go-to control panel, you see there's, questions and chat boxes there. If you guys have questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, just type them in. I may not have time to answer those as I go through, but I will hopefully have a little bit of time at the end, and I'll read some of your questions, answer some of those, and if I can't get to everybody's, then I will definitely reach out to you guys after the presentation. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and jump into this. So for those of you who haven't worked with us before, we're ZenTek Consultants, and we are Civil CAD experts. We work almost exclusively in the AEC community, but we do quite a lot more than just CAD work. We do Civil, we do AutoCAD, we do Revit, we do all your basic CAD control systems, but we also help with project management, estimating, and really when it comes down to software technology, we can help you with the implementation, configuration, and training for all of your software needs. So we hope you guys hit our website and see what else we can do for you. All right, so with that said, let's really get into talking today about the new tools inside of Civil 3D 2020. So one of the first things that you're going to notice when you go ahead and you look into Civil 3D 2020 is the new dark color scheme. Listen, it's not that important a feature, but it does certainly look cool. And really it's integrated into all of the Autodesk products, not just Civil 3D. But it's actually been designed and optimized for high resolution icons to work with the new modern high resolution flat screen monitors and to make it much easier on the human eye. It really does. You will definitely notice by the end of the day that the eye strain looking at this kind of dark blue background, it's a little bit more toned down, but still being very crisp and clear and easy to see. Right, will definitely make your life a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and just jump over to Civil 3D. Right, and let's take a look at it, and here's what it looks like in action. All right, so you can see this is the Civil 3D 2020 interface. Right, you see here that I've got kind of a black background to the toolbars. I've got that dark blue ribbon panel, and you'll see that even like the smaller icons are much crisper and cleaner in the modern setup than they were in the previous releases. The other thing that we got is we finally got our own little logo. All right, so instead of the Autodesk A, we actually now have a C up at the top left for Civil 3D. Okay, so that's really it in terms of the interface. It's like I said, it's not that big of a deal, but just you can go in, and if you don't like it, and some people don't, you can actually go in and you can just go into your options, right? And if you go into your display tab, you see up here at the top, Windows Elements, you can switch it from the dark mode to the light mode. Okay, hopefully it'll go through pretty quickly. There we go. All right, so you can have the softer gray, but you'll see even this has a much higher resolution interface in terms of how crisp the icons and the words show up here as they did, opposed to how they did in 2019. So I will say I actually kind of like that new dark mode. I think it works out much better, at least for me, on my eyes throughout the course of a day. Okay, so I just think it tones things down a little bit for me. All right, so that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to talk about there in terms of the display option. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and look at what else we have, right, in Civil 3D. Now, one of the big changes and updates is really in terms of working with the gravity network analysis tools. They had these in previous versions, and it was hit or miss sometimes, but I actually think they've done a pretty nice job of upgrading, updating, and making this work as a standalone tool inside of Civil 3D. And what the gravity network analysis tool does is it kind of overlaps a little bit with what you guys are probably used to working with in storm and sanitary analysis or hydroflow, things like that, where built directly into the Civil 3D system itself, we have the ability to do flow rate analysis based on catchments and inflows and rainfall, right, directly in Civil 3D, and to actually resize our piping, right, based on flow calculations and analysis. We can also compute energy and hydraulic grade lines, and we can even do basic inlet analysis in terms of depth and retention, and when things are in surcharge. Okay, so there's a lot of functionality that we can now handle directly inside Civil 3D rather than having to export to a third-party system. So let's go ahead and jump back over to our Civil 3D here. go to our pipes drawing. And you see that in this particular drawing, just to kind of give you guys an example, you see that I really have a very, very simplified run here. Just got, 3 12-inch pipes, right? I got 233 at 12, right? I got a 294 of 12, right? And then down here again, right, a 276 of 12, right? And those pipes have been pushed up here into my profile. Now, I just want to show you that when we go in and we start to work on these, what we can do is just go in and click on any pipe or any structure within our pipe network, right? And right up here on that context-sensitive ribbon bar, sorry, that didn't want to come out, we can choose the Analyze Gravity Network option, okay? And that brings up this new toolbox here, right? Nice little floating box that you can, it's a floating dialog, so you can still work behind it. You can move this onto another monitor. Right, and you can go up here and you can turn on and off which of these items you want to analyze at a time. Right, you can even run all 3 at a time. Now, here's where I'm going to be fair and tell you that I don't work for Autodesk. So I try to, when we do these presentations and when I do my training classes and I work with my clients, I try real hard to tell you guys and warn you about potential pitfalls and problems. I'm just not going to tell you that everything Autodesk does is flawless and it never has an issue. Here's what I have found with the 2020 version. If you try to run multiple, you see I can turn these on and off in combination, okay? All right, so I can run this and this, I can run all 3, I can run that one and that one, right? I have found that when you run more than one of these at a time, Civil 3D, not every time, but it has a very high incidence of lockup and crash, okay? So it's not perfect yet, all right? If you're going to do these and you need to run, pipe size and analysis, then you want to do your hydraulic grade lines. They all work nicely, but only run them one at a time. Okay. So for right now, just kind of talk about it in general. We're going to talk about, to begin with, resizing pipes and resetting inverts. Right. So you see here, you got general concepts, right? You can go in and assign whatever the outfall structure is, right? Or you can actually pick your outfall structure, and here I've already got one defined. Right. You can hold that outfall invert if you need to. Okay, you can change for different tailwater conditions, right? Normal depth, critical depth. You can set it to specific elevations, right? You can go take a look at all your network details, right? And you see that right now everything's set at 12 inch. You see I can go in and I can actually work and modify all my ending invert elevations, my Manning's codes, right? My structure types, known flow rates, right? All of those simple things I can go in and modify and direct, right? Right through here. Okay, I can also go in on the side here and you see that I can actually load rainfall data. Right? I can create and save and modify my own. I'm just going to use the flood zone 1 here. One of the standard IDF files that are in place, but you can create your own, right? And you see here that I can actually set, right, exceedance probability for these, and I can even go in and I can set the intensity tables, right? And I can modify and I can add to these, right? And save and update and create my own if I need to, right? So I can work with all of that. I can even go in here, right? And I can set different controls for, velocity, minimum cover, default, Manning's values, right? My TOC. I can even set my graphic displays here for my hydraulic energy grade lines, okay? So I can set all my general settings, right? So now we're just gonna go in and we're gonna set the reset pipe sizes and inverts. And again, remember, I have all 12-inch pipes, right? So when I go in here and I just say analyze, you'll see right off the bat, it's telling me, right, that based on my velocity, I need to upsize these 2 pipes. See right here? I need to push those up to 15-inch pipes, right, in order to get the flow that I need based on my input. And that input can be coming from catchments, rainfall data. I can manually type it in, any combination of those, right? So I can just go ahead now and just say apply, right? And once it's been applied, I'm just going to cancel this. Like I said, run one at a time. Don't try to do multiples, right? And you'll see that it actually went into the plan. You see now I've got a 15-inch pipe, and it actually, if you can kind of see the difference, it did bump the size. That'll be more obvious in the profile, right? Where you can see that it actually did go in, and you see I have my 12-inch here, and you see these other 2 pipes, it kicked them to 15-inch structures for me, okay? It also adjusted the drops and the rates and the inverts as needed to keep the flow and stacking based on surcharge conditions, right? So it's a really intelligent little tool. It does a very nice job. The key here is that you can really only access that through the plan view, right? So when you go in and select that, right, if you try and select it through the profile view, it'll just ask you to pick it from a list. All right, so I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to reanalyze this gravity network, but this time I'm going to uncheck the resize parts and I'm just going to do the compute energy and hydraulic grade lines. okay? And I'm going to leave it with kind of the default data here. I'm just going to go ahead and analyze. Okay, now here I can go ahead and apply, right? But really what I want to do here, because what I want to do is I want to show the hydraulic grade line. You see it's giving you your elevations for the ups and downs, right? For all of them. And I'm going to go ahead and I want to push those into my profile. So I'm just going to click the profile button, right? And right, it says select your profile view, right? So you see I can work behind this and I can move that onto a separate monitor. But now I can just click the profile view. And there you go. You see, just like that, it's able to draw both my energy and hydraulic grade lines. I can turn those off, rename them, do whatever I need, change their colors and display. But it's a very easy thing now to actually push those directly into your profiles inside of Civil 3D. Okay. All right. So again, I can just go ahead and cancel that. Right. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the third option here, which is just, pretty straightforward. Again, I'm going to turn that off and that off, running only one. Right, which is when I can just go in and I can just do a basic inlet analysis, right, where it can actually go in and check my depths, and I can go in and modify the depths. It gives me the initials, right, and I can come over and modify those, and I can apply any changes that I need in the same way. Right, and if at any point I mess up, I can always just get oops, start over, and come back and reset different settings if I need to hold the invert, right, and change it to a different tailwater condition. Okay, then I can go ahead and just reanalyze my inlets. Okay. So I can do that. So that's what we can do with the gravity. The thing to understand about that tool, there's a lot to it. I mean, I went through it pretty quickly there. That's the kind of thing that you probably want to consider doing a little bit of training for your folks on that. And that's something that we can definitely help you with, whether it's that or if you're still using SSA or other methodologies, we can help you there. So let's go ahead and jump back to our presentation, right? So that's the gravity network analysis tools. Right? The next thing that they did inside of Civil 3D 2020 is they've added the concept of Dynamo. And Dynamo has been around for a while. It's a visual programming interface. In other words, it kind of lets you drag and drop steps, right? Kind of like a flow chart with some very minor coding that happens at each of those steps. And we'll look at it in a second. But it's really here to help you automate repetitive processes inside of Civil 3D, because it gives you an interface where rather than having to get into full-blown programming, you can take a lot of the Civil 3D information in terms of alignment names, start and end elevations, structure, rim, invert, corridor stationing, all of that built-in information that we use all the time in terms of labeling inside of Civil 3D. We can take those and kind of integrate that with some very lightweight flow chart visual programming. All right, so let's get at least a general concept of how that works. I'm going to go back to Civil 3D here. All right, and this time I'm going to open up this other drawing here. And you see that what I have is an alignment. All right, and I'm using one of the out-of-the-box examples here just to show you what Dynamo really can do. All right, but along this alignment, I have bridges. Okay, all right, and within those bridges, I want to be able to identify and label those and draw those onto my Civil 3D plans. Right? And what I have are the bridge length, sizes, and names, but I have them done in a CSV file. Okay, so you see here I've got my starting station. One is at 200, one is at 500, one's at 1,000. Right? There's small, medium. I've got different spans, right, and different names. Just some basic information. So what I'd like to be able to do is just read the data from my list that I have here, right? And have it actually go in here and draw my bridge locations, right, along my corridor. So then I can just run corridors, from my, road intersection to the bridge, and then pick up another segment from bridge to bridge and another one from bridge to end, okay? Right? And you see that there is a block already kind of built and defined in here for display purposes, right? And that's really kind of all we need. Right? And the way that we work Dynamo, and again, Dynamo does require some extensive training, and I'll be perfectly honest, tell you, I'm not even 100% comfortable with it yet. I'm still kind of fumbling my way through it here in the Civil 3D world. But we can access it, right, by going over to the Manage tools. Now, you may or may not have this. One of the things you do need to understand is that Dynamo is a separate download for your Civil 3D 2020. It's not part of the basic installation package. You do need to actually go to your subscription site and download it as one of the add-ins from Autodesk, right? But it takes like 2 minutes. It's a pretty small plugin, All right, but you see over here, I've got Dynamo and I've got the run script, my visual programming. All right, so first I'm just gonna go ahead and take a look at Dynamo, just kind of give you guys an idea of what it looks like in action. Right, and I'm gonna open up this sample file here, this add annotations along the alignment. All right, and you can start to see this is what Dynamo does. It allows you to kind of drag in place, right, from the sidebar here. And you see I can go in, I can access basic AutoCAD controls, Civil 3D controls, different types of civil objects and different components for each of them, okay, corridors, etc. Right? So I can grab all of those standard geometries, right, and I can tie those with generic geometries for abstracts, curves, modifiers, lists, input, pause for input, mathematical calculations. And basically what you're doing, you're just kind of setting up a group, right? So you see like the green, get the bridge information from the configuration file, right? That's that Excel file. So it's telling you here, here's the file path, where to find it. See, I have it already set, the bridge annotation along the alignment, CSV file, okay? Then import the data. Then here I want you to do, depending on what's imported, I want you to do one of two things. And you see that they're mostly minor code blocks. If the name is, you know, the A and the station, right? Then for the naming, once you get the name from the Excel file, go ahead and create the label. And once you get the station, it tells you where to place the block that I'm using for symbology. Right, so no, it's not, you know, like, hey, anybody can pick it up and run with this, but with a little bit of effort and training, right, you can actually get to a point where you can really do quite a lot with Dynamo. I mean, it really allows you to go in and customize repetitive tasks, right, to a very, very high extent. Right, so that's the concept behind Dynamo. Right, so to actually see it in action, just to kind of show you what we're talking about, right, is I want to go ahead and run that script, the one that we were just looking at, right? And here it is. It's saved as a Dynamo file, a DYN script file, right? And all it's going to do is follow that flow chart, right? And I go ahead and I open that, and it runs it, and you see that it does exactly what I said it was going to do, right? It went in, it found the starting station for bridge A, which starts here. Then it labeled it as bridge A, and it drew the entire span as a block from here to here. Okay, so that now when I'm doing my corridor, I can go corridor from that point to that point, and I can pick up and do another corridor from that point to that point. So there's bridge A, there's bridge B, right? And there's bridge C. You know, so you think about it, like I said, you know, this is the kind of thing where, you know, doing bridge layout and design, right? This really simplifies it, makes it real quick. You can save that script, run it on any project, right? And if you could have bridge, you know, A through Z, and all you have to do is just go in and fill it out in that Excel spreadsheet, right? You could have 100 million different bridge spans in here if that's what you need. And again, I'm just using bridge span, but think of it in terms of anything else that you need: stations, labels, manholes, light poles. If you're doing rails, right, the overhead, you know, power, you know, line structures, right? You can just have those in repeating bases and have them placed in for you. Okay, so that's the idea behind Dynamo. Okay, so that's what we're doing. That's how that all works. So it's a pretty straightforward thing, but it definitely does take a little bit of time and effort to kind of get into that. All right, so that's been added to Civil 3D 2020. Like I said, something that's been around for AutoCAD and Revit for a little bit, right? And it's finally just making its way into the Civil 3D world. So I'm sure soon enough there will be all kinds of you know, available script files and examples and so on going on there out in the world. Okay, so let's talk about other helpful updates, all right? Other things that have happened here in 2020. Some of them are just under the hood things that I just want to make you guys aware of, things that aren't like dramatic, you know, game-changing day-to-day operational features. So these under the hood changes. Number one, the survey database inside of Civil 3D, okay? It now uses SQLite instead of the old SQL CE, which is what it's used for years. And that's something you need to be aware of if you're dealing with a survey database, because they are not compatible, okay? If you want to use existing survey data in your new version of 2020, you are going to have to download and install the survey database migration utility. It's a completely separate download that you can get from Autodesk. Okay, just go to autodesk.com and they'll you know, it's down under your standard download site for your contract. But you're going to actually have to process that on any existing survey database that you want to be able to use in 2020, and you need to be aware that they are not backwards compatible. Okay, once you do it, there's no going back. Okay, so there is no crossing between 2019 and 2020 in the survey world. They're completely different database structures, right? SQLite has a lot more functionality and capability in terms of GIS and GPS data, and to be able to import and extract it for use, and that's why they made that upgrade. Okay, the export Civil 3D drawing command has been updated to address a number of different problems. So just kind of summarize those real fast. Labels that have background masks. There were issues in previous version with the backgrounds coming out as like bow tie shapes. They now do come out as actual rectangles, the way they're meant to. XREFs are exploded appropriately when you export. So when you're exporting out, XREFs are broken down into their drawing component parts. You no longer get proxy state messages, right? And the option to convert feature lines, segments, figures, etc., to 2D or 3D polylines, that was added in AutoCAD Civil 2019.2, I believe. That's now included in the Autodesk Civil 3D 2020. And really all of the updates, right? Any updates that you did in with the patches and the service packs and so on, and the updates through the 2019 version, those are all included as a standard part of the base code in 2020. So anything that you got that you liked in 2019 that you thought was cool, you still have full access to that in the base version of 2020, right? So no updates or anything yet. The other thing that I did want to touch base on, there are a couple of semi-cool tools that they did to the base underlying AutoCAD. Right? There were dozens of changes to that, but most of them in the Civil 3D world were like, nah, who cares? But there were three that I found to be particularly useful and I thought were kind of cool, that I thought I'd at least show you guys today. Maybe you find them useful. Right? And one of them is dealing with the measure geometry command. Right? So you can go in with the measure geometry command, right, and turn that on, and you can set it to quick mode, right, just by clicking the quick mode here. And what that does is it gives you an active screen setup. So it can be a really useful way. You see, as I'm getting a little bit of a delay here, right? But you can see you can easily start to get, as you're working near items, right? It automatically gives you dimensioning and distance to nearest features, right? As you work in for things like property lines, etc. Right? So you see, as you move to different items, you can get, where things are, offset, distance along corridors, roadways. All right, so if you're going in here and you want to know what station or what distance or offset your manhole is, or your fire hydrant, right, you can see it's giving you the exact stationing and offset kind of structures. All right, so in that respect, it can be kind of neat. Same thing over here, right? When you get into dealing with, your proposal, you want to see, what your depth of cover is, or your depth below a particular grid. So it's a nice little tool. It's not bad. It works a little better, I think, in the architectural field than this, but it still has its occasional uses here inside of the civil world. So it's not a terrible tool to have. One other thing that I did want to point out to you is the insert tool. So when you go into like insert blocks and references and so on, when you go and use the basic insert tool now, you'll see that when it comes up, it's no longer that old dialogue we've had for 30 years. It actually has a built-in place list, and you can see, you can go to your current drawing and see it gives you a preview of all the blocks in your current drawing. You can set all of the different controls in terms of block, scale, rotation, etc. right here. And then you can pick what you want, right? So again, here, if I want to go in and say, hey, I want to do either a uniform scale, right? Or I can go in and set the overall scale for this to, 48, right? And then when I go in and I drop my block in, it's all automatically scaled and set up and structured for me, okay? Right? I can also go and look at recently used blocks. See, it holds all of my recently accessed ones. I can even go over to other drawings, and I can just browse out here using the browse button, right, to go find different drawings wherever I need them, right? And I can import the blocks from there, and it'll give me previews of the blocks in that drawing as well. So that's a kind of nice little tool that they've added. I kind of like that one a little bit, okay? And the last one, I'm just going to erase that block real quick, that I think is a really nice tool. And if you guys missed this in the 2019 updates, right, it's the idea of the drawing compare, okay, here for Civil 3D, and it can be really, really useful. So what we want to do with that is you go to the collaborate, right, and you'll see here you have the DWG compare tool built in, right, and what that lets you do is do an overlay of two drawings. So it's an ideal way to kind of, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it, to do like a revision comparison, what's been changed from one version of a file to another. right? But the great thing is it used to do it as like an external overlay, right? We've been able to do that for a while in AutoCAD and Civil 3D, but it would do it as like a third drawing, right? You'd have to take the two drawing files, meld them together and make a third and look at it in a separate window. Here, it actually now in 2020 does it in place, which is really, really nice. I like the way they did this. So I'm gonna go up to the drawing compare button, right? And I'm gonna go in and see how this pipes revised. I just made a couple of random changes in that revised pipes drawing. I'm gonna open that. Right? And you see it'll take a second while it thinks, right? And there we go. All right, so now you see right away that it actually rev bubbles everything that's different. This is different, and then this area there are changes, right? And you can see because it's all green, right? It's telling me that this has been deleted in the new drawing. It's only in the current drawing, right? The revised file that I'm comparing against, right, actually has that and that have been deleted. And if I go in here, you see if I zoom in, you can actually see in real time the difference. Okay, you see what's in red here? That's where things lay out in that revised drawing. Okay, and you see what's nice about this is that I can turn that off and on with a single click of the button. So you can see here's what's in my current active drawing, right? Here's the drawing I'm comparing to. So I can compare the original against revision 1 or revision 1 against the original. Right? It just, depends on which one you're in at the moment, right? But you see even the text and the label. So I can see that the pipe length changed in the revised file. It went from 294 to 301, okay? They eliminated a couple of pipe segments up in here, okay? There were some changes made within that document, okay? And I can also make my way here. I can move my way from structure to structure, right? You can see, some of the assemblies were deleted, okay? This assembly or this profile was deleted, right? Changes to the profile. You see, I can see the changes, what happened, what was different within the profile, right? There were definitely changes between the designs, okay, and what I had going on, right? And I can just move my way through one at a time and see all of those. I can also export reports and summaries, and then when I'm done, I can just close it, okay? And at any time, I can go back and redo that. So that's another nice, useful little tool, okay? So we can use the drawing comparison on the fly as we need to, right? And with that said, I think that kind of covers everything I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Honestly, I don't see any questions coming in here, and that's okay. I understand that it's not a dramatic, there were no grand earth-shaking changes to the 2020 tool set. Like I said, I do think that gravity network analysis tool has a lot of great features to it. That's something you guys would definitely want to wrap your heads around. But other than that, thank you guys for joining us today. And like I said, I hope you'll hit our website, see the other things, the other software, the other systems that we work with here at ZenTech, right? And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us, right? And oh, it looks like I do have a question coming in here from Derek. Just waiting to see it. He's typing it out. And I'm happy to go back in, jump in and answer that. In the meantime, any of you guys, if you do have any other additional questions, if anything you want to follow up on, you can just email us, sales@ZenTekConsultants.net, and we'd be happy to answer any thoughts, questions, or concerns that you guys might have, right? Other than that, I'm just kind of waiting here, hoping that Derek gets his question in here to me. Okay, there we go. Okay, question is the survey database. Once I move to 2020 database, is there any way of going back to the previous version? No, there absolutely is not. You cannot revert. And that's why I pointed it out, Derek. I understand your concern. That's very dangerous. And that's why I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. It's a one-way trip. Once you make that change to the database, you cannot convert from the SQLite back to the CE. All right. So be very careful. Make that decision carefully before you do that. Okay. And his concerns are you going to have issues with archive projects? Yes. Yeah, you're going to have to be careful with that. And when you do deal with archive projects, my suggestion is to not directly open archived projects, right? But to make copies of them out, okay? Right? And here's the other thing that I will say with that if you open up like an archive project, the SQLite will open up the CE version. It just won't let you make any changes or edits, which in an archive condition is not bad anyway. You kind of want to keep that read only, okay? But yeah, once you convert it so that you can perform any type of edit, there's no going back, okay? All right, so those are the concerns. All right, other than that, I think we're good. Oh, we have another one. Do you have to input rainfall from Rob? He wants to know, do you have to input rainfall data for the stormwater analysis so you can directly input flow rates to each drain? You can actually input your flow into each drainage structure, and you can also, Rob, tie them to your catchment areas. If you have defined catchments for each of your inlets, it will use those automatically. Okay, so either way, you can work it in both directions. Good question. Okay, all right. Other than that, I think we are at time, so we're gonna wrap this up. And like I said, if you guys do have any other questions, please don't hesitate to shoot us an email. And thank you guys for joining us today, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.